Hey, Shalom, Akim, giving all praise, honor, glory to Yahweh, Bashim, Yahshua, Bashim, Rakak, Daj, double honor to the apostles, elders of Great Millstone, salutations to the sincere Akim out there of the hopeful elect, right? This is going to be a quick one, okay? Concerning after camp, brothers, I know brothers like to hit the bars, hang out, you know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing wrong with that, going out, but, we got to, like the Apostle Tahar said, we got to, discipline ourselves to be in that hermetic spirit, man, meaning keeping ourselves more indoors, not being out on the club scene too much, playing the bars and going out to public events, concerts, and this, that, and the third, when you're always out there, when you putting yourself out there, so Satan can wind up devouring you, okay? Getting yourself in a jam and this, that, and the third, man. Gotta try to remain in the spirit, especially after camp. This is more so as far as like, after camp goes, all right? Let me bring this scripture out real quick. This is the book of 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8. It says, be sober, be vigilant, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. All right? So, we got to be sober in this thing, meaning what? Remain in the spirit, okay? Not saying you can't have a drink, because that's not, of course, according to the scriptures, the Lord used to drink wine, and plenty of men in the Bible used to drink wine and strong drink, all right? So the sober in this aspect is talking about remaining spiritual, man, remaining focused on the word of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. All right, it says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. All right, because believe it or not, man, these devils are watching us, man. All right, these devils are watching us. They watch our channels, despite the low amount of views you may get on YouTube, social media, in comparison to some of these other Israelite groups who are not teaching the truth, and guys who sold out and is chasing clout. But Great Millstone brothers, we got the truth. So you best believe that these devils are actually watching us, man. The elites are watching us. The government is paying attention to us, our whereabouts, our movements, and the local police precinct, they know what days we go out to the camp and where we're located at, so all of that hanging out at the bar right after camp in close proximity to the camp, gotta dead all that shit, man. Dead all of that. This is my advice to you brothers, you younger brothers especially. The elder brothers, the brothers that's more seasoned, we know the deal already, okay? But for you young brothers, man, you got to chill out with all of that, going out to the bar, drinking right after camp, around the camp area, especially nowadays, because, we go out and do the work. This is supposed to be us dead set against the world. Because Saturday is the day of the world. That's why we go out there on the camp, on the highways and the byways, and we teach the word on Saturdays, okay? All right? Matter of fact, let me get this scripture real quick in Ephesians before I forget it. I want to hold it on deck. All right? But, yeah, man. Saturday is the day of the world, and that's the main reason why we go out there on Saturdays to teach. That's when most people are going out clubbing, barbecuing in the summertime, having block parties and cookouts, and most people are whining and dining, taking out their significant other, or having certain family events. They hold it on a Saturday. All right, all week they work, the people work, and then when the weekend comes, mainly on Saturday, that's when they go out doing whatever wicked shit that they have idle time to do, okay? So in turn, we go out there and we do the righteous works of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, and we rebuke this world on Saturdays. Okay, you know, the other camps out there, they do it whenever they, you know, whatever day is available for most of them brothers to congregate and go out there and push the word on the highways and the byways. But you know, for the brothers up here in New York, we usually go out there on Saturdays, in which most of the camps go out there on Saturdays anyway in their respective cities. But you know, nowadays camp is not as long as it used to be, man. You know, we usually be out there on Saturdays, maybe 3 hours top, you know, 3 hours top, in comparison to how we used to do back in the days, especially when we used to be on 34th Street, man. We used to be out there a good 8 hours, man, at least. All right. You know, and you know, the apostles done told you their testimony of when back in the days when it was all one West, but High Priest Ariab used to be out there on in Times Square, how they used to be out there for the whole day pretty much, man. You know, for the whole day, right? Like 12, 13 hours and whatnot, teaching the word, man. You know, so you know, if you're going out there doing the work and we only doing it for 3 hours on the highways and the byways, you want to keep the momentum of the spirit going, man. Okay, so myself and a few other brothers, you know, elder brothers and seasoned brothers that have been in this truth for some time, what we usually do after camp is we go link up with another brother and do studio videos at the brother's crib, you know. And you know, that's what I would recommend for you young brothers, man. Okay, you new brothers that's in the truth, you know, instead of you know, as soon as camp is done, you know, go hang out at the bar and have a couple of drinks. Nah, you should link up with another brother and get with a brother who got the crib available, okay, and continue on the momentum in the spirit of rebuking this society, man. All right, this is 2 Peter's chapter 3, verse 11. It says, seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness? Okay, yeah, so we supposed to be in all holy conversation and godliness, man. All right, you know, being in holy conversation, holy meaning separated, right? Separation, you know, the Lord called us a holy people unto himself, meaning he separated us from the rest of the people in the world. So we supposed to continue on in a holy conversation, a separate conversation from what the world is having. The world is talking about sports. Niggas are talking about hoes and sluts and, you know, all kind of worldly shit, man. You know, all kind of BS, drugs and, you know, what they could score and this, that, and the third. But we were supposed to be conversating about is what? The word of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah. So like I said, if nowadays we only go into camp for 3 hours, right, on a Saturday, you know, and camp closes earlier than when we used to close it from back in the 34th Street days, you know, to keep the momentum going, go link up with a brother at his crib and push videos, man. Remain in the spirit, you know, that's that holy conversation, continuing on, preaching the gospel, prophesying, doing the righteous works of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah, teaching the word. Okay, that's what we ought to do, you know. It says, seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved. What things is it talking about? The world that we live in. Okay, this wicked society, America, is going to be dissolved. It's going to be destroyed. All right. It says, what manner of person ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness? Okay, so that's what we have to be in, you know. You know, there's no limit to it just being 3 hours on a Saturday. Nah, when camp is over, you know, link up with brothers, continue on pushing the word. You know, the Lord would appreciate that more so than you hanging out at the bar, chilling, having a couple of drinks, and, you know, trying to bag holes or going to the strip club or whatever young brothers are involved in, man. Young brothers like to do, you know. You could do that on your own free time during the week, sometime after work, you know. But you know, on Saturdays when we go out, you know, we want to keep that momentum going and remain in the spirit. All right. You know, this is the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 10. It says, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Right? Discipline, man. Everything takes discipline. You know, yeah, the worldly things might seem appealing, to a certain to its certain limits. All right, as far as going out, drinking, socializing. All right, but we have to discipline ourselves, especially on Saturdays when we just finished doing the work of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. Okay, as far as being on the highways and the byways. All right, it says, put on the whole armor of the Most High, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. All right, because like I said, man, these devils are watching us, man. They're watching us. Okay, your local precinct, your local police sheriff, okay, in community officials or whatever, they know what days we go out on the highways and the byways to teach. All right, they know exactly where we're located at. All right, there's no secret. We put ourselves out there by doing these videos and hitting the highways and the byways like the Lord commanded us to in the Great Commission, to go out there and teach the word. All right, in the marketplace. Okay, so we supposed to put on the whole armor of the Most High. When you going out there so close to the camp, going to the local bar after we done finished rebuking all these spirits in that area, okay, and you go to the local bar, and drinking and getting thrown off guard. The Lord said, be wise as a serpent, yet harmless as a dove. So you putting yourself out there when you're doing that, man. Especially close to an area where we just got finished rebuking the town, the neighborhood, or the people for the day. All right, so you got to be sober, be vigilant like the scriptures say. All right, it says, I'm gonna read on. It says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. All right, so them demons are still out there, man. Just because we salute each other out and camp is dismissed doesn't mean that them spirits ain't still heavy out there in that area, man. Okay, all right, so you gotta discipline yourself and try to refrain from hitting them hot spots that's right around the way from the camp. Okay, and like I said, really you need to remain spiritual, man, and continue on doing the work, because nowadays camp is short, and that's because the time is short. So camp, as far as being out there on the highways and the byways, is short, but you can continue on pushing the word at a brother's house, man. All right, and I'm just gonna leave it on that note. I'm gonna end this video on that. Hopefully you young brothers will consider what I said, okay, in this video, and apply it. All right, Shalom, Wabarakim, Wabarakazah. See you in the next one. Shalom.